Good evening, ladies and gentlemen out there in YouTube land. I am Deleted Scenes, and I would like to welcome you to my live review of No One Will Save You, a film by 20th Century Studios, currently airing on Hulu and other places. All right. This movie is written and directed by Brian Duffield and starring Caitlin Dever, and it is an alien invasion film about one woman's struggle. This woman is very angst and anxiety ridden. Does not leave her home much, and we'll go into why when we hit the spoiler section. And hello to JPRPH1. On the first night of this alien invasion, and that's not a spoiler because you get aliens in this movie right away. The first night of this invasion, aliens show up in her home, and she has to fight them off. And in the process of doing that, goes on this odyssey of self-discovery. All right. First off, I do want to say Caitlin Dever is outstanding in this movie. She has this movie very firmly resting on her shoulders, and she does literally have to carry it like you know. And she's fantastic in this. I'll say that up front. The special effects. Some of them are kind of dodgy. However, it does add a certain low budget charm to it. This is obviously a mid-budgeted film. Now, there are times when that can be a hindrance, and up to a point, it kind of is here as well in places. But at other points, I was impressed by the effects and the overall quality of the movie itself. You know, this isn't the poor CGI that we've been seeing from so many other movies. The filmmakers were dealing with a small budget, and from that small budget came invention. And it's obvious. Every cent that went into this movie is on the screen. It was by people who cared for it. It is an original film, which we've been asking for more of. You know, we've been asking, and I have been one of them who have been asking for these, original one-off hour and a half type films. And this movie gives it to us. And hello to Connie Cleary. All right, now Bryn, who's Caitlin Dever's character, she's pretty feisty. She fights them off the first night, and again, this is not the spoiler section. This is all the first 10 minutes. Everything I have brought up so far is all in the first 10 minutes of the film, and is pretty much into trailers. Now, We find out very quickly, and hello to Brett Cohen. Now, we find out pretty quickly that she's not going to get any help from the people in town. She lives kind of outside of town. She's out in the it's a town that's kind of out in the sticks anyway, but she's even further out in the sticks. And so for her to get from her home to town is a bit of a trek. And we find out very early on that she's not exactly very popular in town. She's shunned, um, despised. There's someone who actually flat out spits in her face at one point. That happens. And up to that point in the movie, we don't know why. And when I get into the spoiler section, I don't normally do spoilers in my reviews, but I don't know how to talk about this movie without really going into them. So I will have a spoiler banner up when I get to that portion of the film. And if anybody wants to duck out, and because they haven't seen the movie yet and you want to and you don't want it spoiled, if you choose at that point to leave, do so. I understand completely. I don't normally do spoilers, but I don't know how to talk about this movie without really going into them. Because this is a movie that's about more than just an alien invasion film. Now, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of that. It definitely it's signs. It's got a lot of signs in it. That kind of vibe. There is this a puppet master invasion of the body snatchers plot line that begins to assert itself about halfway through the movie. So you're dealing with a movie that's very much in that vein, and this young woman who gets caught up in it, and with the fact that, as the title says, no one will save you. She has to do battle with these aliens on her own. And the movie is, like I said, the movie is about an hour and a half. 93 minutes all told. It moves pretty briskly too. It's paced very well. There's a point about an hour, maybe 70 minutes into the film, where the focus of the movie changes. Let me put it that way. And by that point in the movie, I feel your enjoyment is going to be based on if you buy into what happens in the last 20 minutes. And this is why I want to go into spoilers and why I want to go a little bit deeper into what I believe the ending means and go into the theories that are being bandied about. Now, going back to the first hour of the movie, which is the alien invasion portion of the film. It's done pretty well. And unless you are someone who's not a fan of like science fiction, alien invasion, monster type movies, you're probably not going to dig this movie. It does go into Twilight Zone territory with the ending. There have been people who have said they think this would have been a better short movie. I disagree with that, but I can understand it. You know, because if you're somebody who's not as into these movies as I or others might be, then it's not going to work for you. But I dig it. You know, the action in this movie delivers. The alien invasion stuff delivers. There's a sequence of this movie where she actually tries to get out of town once the proverbial feces hit the air conditioner, so to speak. You know, at the point in the movie where you're screaming out, why doesn't she just leave town? She does attempt to do that pretty early on. I would say probably at around a half-hour mark. She does try to leave town. But that's when she realizes that, you know, some of the townsfolk are not themselves anymore. And that's when the body snatchers type plot line starts to assert itself. So on that basis, this movie really does work for me. It works like gangbusters. It's pretty good. But like I said, the part where I think most people are going to have their issues with this movie is in the last 20 minutes. And so this is the part where I'm going to go into spoilers. So if there's anybody who wants to leave the chat now, or maybe just turn the sound down on the video, I completely understand. And when I'm done with spoilers, I'm going to take the banner off and everybody can come back who's left. All right, so I'm going to do a countdown before I go into the spoilers. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. For those of you who are sticking around for the spoilers, like I said, if you're still listening, I hope you have seen the movie, because I'm going to go into some things here. Now, once Bryn has exhausted all attempts to get away from the aliens, to, as I've said before, very early on, we find out that she's not going to get any help from anybody, either because they have already been taken over or they so despise her that she knows she cannot count on these people for assistance. All right, now, about 20 minutes towards the ending of the film, the alien that is supposed to double for Bryn, because that's essentially the plot. It's kind of like Annihilation in a way, where that you have that alien that tries to imitate Natalie Portman at the end of the film. That happens here, under far different circumstances and in a different way, but that happens here. And this alien gets to drop on her and stabs her twice with a piece of wood, what appears to be a piece of wood. Bryn, who at this point is armed with a box cutter, uses it on the alien and kills this alien. That is now doubling for her. And she's cradling this alien. And she's finally taken up into the spaceship. At that point, the one of many spaceships that are now flying overhead. Because, of course, the alien invasion is not just the town, it's the world. But since we're seeing everything through Bryn's eyes and through how she's perceiving everything, and that's going to be important, it's going to be about how she is perceiving the events that are going on. Now, she is taken up into one of the alien motherships. She is in stasis, and they because these aliens have some sort of telepathic ability, they are able to see into her mind. And we find out that the reason why she is so despised by the people in the town is that 10 years before 10 years before the events of the film, she killed the daughter of the local police chief, her best friend, in a fight. They're arguing out in the woods. The other girl, the chief's daughter, pushes Bryn down. Bryn comes up with a rock, basically beats her to death with the rock. Brains her, boom, just one hit and it's over. And at that point, she is sentenced into a juvenile detention, psych evaluations, the whole 9 yards. And she is eventually let out and basically locks herself up in her family home, where where she's created this very idealized way of kind of looking at the world. She doesn't have anything modern in the home. She dresses like it's the 50s. she has a rotary phone that, believe it or not, still works. So that was really cool to see because I'm old enough to remember rotary phones. There's, and she's building these little models, which are, again, a very idealized version of the town. The town the way she wishes it was. Because this is a movie where you're dealing with a woman who is consumed by guilt over what she's done. And she is truly contrite and feels that guilt. So she is essentially in this kind of prison of her own making. And the townspeople who, again, like I said, 10 years later, even though she did her time, so to speak, they are still very much raw about what happened. And, they call her up, they threaten her, all this. Then nobody ever actually moves on it. But, she gets these calls on a daily basis now. She's pretty much used to them. Now, as I said, the aliens are now looking into her mind because they have telepathic abilities. Prokinesis and whatnot. They're basically Jedi. And they decide that they're going to send her back. They're not going to make any more doubles. They're not going to attempt to possess her, which they do at one point, where the aliens are using this parasite to infect people, and this parasite that's in people's throats. And she goes and she yanks her parasite out at one point. Now, they decide to send her back. Basically, okay, we're not going to attempt to take you anymore. We're not going to mess with you as long as you chill. That's basically it. Because at this point in the movie, she's killed a number of them. And so they send her back. And this is where the ending can be taken a couple of ways. Now, it can be taken as she's still on the ship and they pulled like some kind of mind palace trick on her where she thinks that she's back in town and that it's this idealized version of things. Basically, the town the way she wants it to be. Because you have to understand that the aliens are enabling this young woman who, being so consumed by guilt, loneliness, having this idealized view of what the town could be. You're dealing with an unreliable narrator, and the aliens in the end are essentially enabling a woman who has gone insane. In the end, the aliens win, and they take over Earth. But they let this girl go, and they let her live in this delusion, this idealized version of this town where everyone loves her, but they're all meat puppets. They're all controlled by this parasite now. It is a very dark ending, but it can be construed as being a happy one because she is no longer in the hell that was her life. It's kind of a very David Lynch ending, really, in a lot of ways. And I think that's what saves the movie for me. And I had to think about it, and I had to see what some other people's theories were and read about what the writer director Brian Duffield, what he intended it to mean. And even though I say spoilers, I have not given away the entire story. There are things I have not talked about, but I didn't know how to review this movie without talking about the ending in some fashion, you know, because you're dealing with a lead character and you're seeing everything through her point of view because she is so isolated. And in the end, you are dealing with what's essentially an unreliable narrator. This woman whose psychoses are being enabled so that these aliens can keep her docile. That's the way I look at it. Because she is no longer in the hell that was her life. She is, in a way, you could look at it as, okay, she's merely switching one prison for another. But in the end, it's a prison she wants to be in. So it is, in a sense, a happy ending because she gets this sense of community that she wanted. I say it's not. I say my theory of it is, it's, it does not matter if she is still on Earth, with these meat sack people, with these meat puppets, with these people who are just shells, or rather she's still on the ship and this is all just going on in her head. Um, it can be construed as a dark ending, but it's a happy ending because the lead character is in the place she wants to be in. People are going to be talking about this movie for a while, and it's going to be a matter of, okay, do you buy into the ending, or does the ending ruin the movie for you? Because it goes into the direction that it takes. You know, um, it's not this big action. She kills all the aliens and saves the town, and it's all is forgiven. No, it's not that at all. It goes into this whole other direction, and one that I certainly didn't see, because in a sense it's a town that's not worth saving, but at the same time, you know what, they have a right to their anger because she did something pretty fucking heinous. You know, she's this dark side of this town that they can't get rid of because she's still there. No One Will Save You is a great title for this movie because either way you look at it, it's exactly the point. No one is coming to her aid. No one is coming to the aid of the townspeople, and no one is coming to the aid of the people of Earth. You're a meat puppet now. Get over it. That's the ending. you know. Um, so yeah, okay. For those of you who are who turned the sound down or left, you can come back. That's the end of the spoiler section of the movie. Um, I'm somewhere between 3 to 3.5 stars for this movie. I'm recommending it. Um, this is not going to be a movie for everybody, but it works for what it is. The alien invasion stuff works. The home invasion stuff works. Um, the action is good. It's shot well. It's paced well. The acting is fantastic. Uh, but I do understand that if people watch this movie and they say worst movie of all time, half a star, that would be pushing it a bit because it's not that. But I can understand people seeing this movie and not liking it for whatever reason, you know, because it's just not their cup of tea as a movie, or because you know that last act shoots it down for them. I completely get all of those arguments, but I'm here to say that this is a movie worth seeing. So seek it out, decide for yourself. You know, I don't know if anybody in the chat or anybody who's lurking in who might be lurking in the background has seen this movie yet. I didn't know how to talk about it without going into the ending. And I don't normally do this. Is the first spoiler review I've ever done for a movie. But I felt I had to go into it because I had to get my thoughts on the ending off of my chest because I didn't know how to talk about it without going into it. But like I said, the ending is not going to work for everybody, but I think there's no other way it could have ended. You know, this movie is not Independence Day. This is about something else entirely. And in my opinion, it worked. And if I see this movie again, which I intend to do at some point, I think it might actually get elevated in my eyes. But it's a very interesting movie, and it's an original movie, definitely. This is a movie from a filmmaker that had a vision and a lead actress, who followed him into this, alien invasion with a twist movie. All right. So, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. That's the end of the review. I want to thank everybody in the chat. JPRPH1, Connie Cleary, Brett Cohen, Lady Mist, and everybody who is lurking in the background who watches this movie on repeat. It's an interesting one. Give it a look. I'm recommending it. All right. Coming up at 8 p.m. Eastern, about 43 minutes from now, is my new episode of Unscripted. Episode 33, entitled "The Wheels on the Bus." And I'm going to be talking about the WGA strike, Rachel Ziegler, and James Gunn. At 9 p.m., I am going to be modding the chat over on Geeky Geezers, over on Aged Boomers channel, which will be a week in review. And at 12:05, rejoin me here on my channel for The Other Side of Midnight. And tonight, my guest will be Tom Conkle. And we are going to be discussing his upcoming film, Island in the Stars. So stay tuned for that. And thank you, Lady Mist. Have fun, everyone. Catch you with Tom later. Thank you. Say hello to everybody for me. All righty. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you all for watching. Take care. Stay strong, because this is how we win.